Welcome to Realty Talk, where we talk real about real estate. No hype, no selling, just facts. My name is Frank Rodriguez, the manager here at Casa Bella Realty Group. And our goal is to bring you transparent and useful information you can use when making your real estate decisions. We're continuing to break down the numbers. Today's KPI that we're going to dissect and really go through the formula together, it's the cap rate. Now, this is a bit more complex, so I want to ask you to take good notes. Now, if you're driving or working out while hearing this video, come back to it at a later time where you can sit down and, again, take good notes and practice the formulas. Now, in figuring out today's KPI, the cap rate, as mentioned in the previous video, we're sticking with the same property, 11 units in the city of Hawthorne here in Southern California, asking price of $2,950,000. Okay, so the formula for the KPI, the general formula, is the NOI, net operating income, divided into the price, and that will give us our cap rate. Now, the question is, how do we get to the NOI? So that's what we're going to cover today, so you have a better control of analyzing the numbers on any particular deal and come to your own conclusion. Okay, so let's start with the formula from the top. The first thing we do is take the annual gross rents. Now, in the example of the real property that we're using here, annual gross rents are $223,104. Okay. Now, the next part is the vacancy factor. We subtract that from the annual gross rents. By default, lenders use 5%. I recommend you use 5%, even if you're paying cash for the property. Still stick with that 5% as a cushion, right? So we take 223,104 of annual gross rents, subtract 5%, and that will give us an adjusted annual rents of $211,948. Okay, these are the numbers so far. And the next part that we do is we have to total up the annual expenses, because from the adjusted rents of $211,948, we have to subtract the total annual expenses to arrive at our NOI, net operating income. Now, I'm going to give you a list of annual expenses that may be applicable to this particular property, though these numbers can vary depending on the property that you're looking at. Okay, so the first one we look at, which is the biggest number, and this is where a lot of clients may make the mistake, or agents, because they use the previous assessed value when calculating these numbers. And no, we have to use the new assessed value. In LA County, county and cities, right, combined, it's roughly 1.25% of the price. Okay, so in this case, part of the total annual expenses, the first one is taxes. So $2,950,000 multiplied by 1.25% will give us $36,875. The second annual expense is insurance. In this example, we're using $10,000 per year. Third expense, management. Now, even if you self-manage, which again, great work if you have the time to do so, most lenders will still use a percentage for management, even if you self-manage the property and you're getting financing. And the reason is because if for whatever reason they had to take the property back, banks aren't in the business of managing properties. So they'll hire a management company, and they want to make sure those numbers are calculated in there to safeguard their interest, right? Again, if you self-manage, then you're paying yourself this money, and that's great. Now, the formula right now in LA County is roughly 8% of the annual gross rent. So in this case, the management works out to be $17,848 per year for management. Next, we have water, right? Most properties are designed with one water meter. Now, we've had clients recently in Gardena bought 4-unit property. Each unit had its own water meter, which I thought was great, right, for the owner. Though most properties is one water meter, and the owner usually takes care of the water. If you own properties, you know that's the case for you in most of the time. So here I calculated roughly 14,000. And usually what I do is anywhere between $75 to $100 per unit. So in this case, it's 11 units. So for the year, 14,000. Landscaping. In this case, I use an example of 1,800. Landscaping, gardening, right? Kind of in the same realm there, 1,800 a year. Maintenance. Now, this is a tricky one because most landlords don't calculate this, though if you own properties now, you know that throughout the year, be it one unit, another unit, different units, may need certain type of maintenance throughout the year. So what I like to calculate is roughly in $500 per month, right? Because if we do something in one unit 1 month, and let's say we skip a different month, and then the following month we do something else, maybe a repair may be 800, this one may be 300. I like to average 500 per month. Now, you use your own math. If you're an experienced investor, I'm sure you have your numbers. And on my property, I like to use 500 per month as maintenance. And I rather allocate for it and not need it, and that goes to my bottom line, than not allocate for it and need it, and then, you know, it wasn't a good investment. So 500 per month. In this case, it's 6,000 maintenance. Trash. 3,000 in this case per year. And then certain cities do require on commercial residential, like in this case 11 units, they do require a business license, and usually between 250 or 300. Here I calculated $300 per year. So if you're following along like I asked, and you're taking notes, and you're not wasting your time in watching this video, you're actually doing the work, we came up with a total of total expenses after we add all these items up, $89,823 of total annual expenses. Let me repeat that number, $89,823. Okay? Now, if you self-manage, you don't do as much maintenance because, you know, maybe it's a newer property or you have great tenants in there that take care of the property. You know, that money goes to your pocket, right? Whatever that amounts are. But in this case, $89,823 are the total expenses. Now we subtract this number, 89,000 and some change, from the adjusted rents, which were 211,948. So 211,948 minus 89,823 gives us an NOI, net operating income, of 122,125. Okay, now we have the first part of that formula. Remember, NOI divided into the price gives us our cap rate. So now we have the NOI. We take 122,125, divide that into 2,950,000, gives us a cap rate of 4.14. Now, if you watch the previous videos, you would know if this is a decent cap rate or not. Be it you're selling a property or buying a property, every neighborhood has a target, right? A range. And this number falls in that range, being that it's what? City of Hawthorne, right? I take that into account. The type of property, 11 units, a good mix of properties. I would consider this maybe a A plus, A minus type of property. And there's no city rent control. So 4.14 cap rate is decent. And if you watch the previous video, we came up with the GRM. And now if you haven't watched it, go back, because that's the first filter, the GRM. And now the second filter is the cap rate. Now you have two KPIs to start determining if you're either selling a property at a good price, right? Something that's fair to you and an investor, or if you're purchasing a replacement property on an exchange if a property like this of 11 units with these rents, these expenses, uh, meet the need, right? Meet the need of the financing of available or your cash investment, right? Of 2,950,000. All right. So hope you enjoyed today's video. Go back to it a few times if you need to. I recommend that you don't only hear, that you do the math yourself, okay? Because by doing the math yourself, I think you'll appreciate the learning a bit more. And you can apply this to real life, okay? So um, continue watching. We're going to continue going through the different KPIs on the next video. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so, because these videos are tough to put together. There's so much technical aspects, so many formulas. I wish I could be making videos a little bit more entertaining, but that's not my cup of tea. I believe that at least for this reason, right, this platform, it's good for learning. It's good for learning. You can learn at home, you can learn on your breaks, and there's no excuse to not gain the necessary knowledge to be successful in investing. So hopefully you're applying it, and I'll see you on the next video.